Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our digital Nick Gabaldón Day extravaganza. I'm here today with Dr. Shelley Luce, President and CEO of Heal the Bay, Ryan Harris, owner of Earth Technologies, Greg Rachal, co-founder and co-president of the Black Surfers Collective, and I'm Jeff Williams, co-founder, co-president of Black Surfers Collective, and newest board member of Heal the Bay. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. So this is on surf sustainability, and I just want to hear from you, Ryan, because you're a trendsetter in that arena of how you came into learning to shape boards, and then we'll go back through a little bit of the timeline between something momentous like 2005 when Clark closed to our present day, and how the surfboard evolution has come about. Take it away.
Well, I started as it was a hobby. I started as a backyard guy, like a lot of shapers, mainly doing repairs on my own boards. And then somebody told me to buy a blank. I bought a blank, and that was pretty much it. I bartended to fund the habit. And ultimately, the spouse, you guys know Regina, she told me to quit my day job, take it serious. And right about when I decided to take it serious is when the Clark foam closure happened, which was for those of you that don't know, or people listening that don't know anything about that, it was a blank company that had a monopoly on the industry, and all their blanks were traditional poly, which is toxic. So by them closing, it opened up a lot of doors and new ways for boards to be made. And that's when the epoxy revolution.
Okay, hold on, Ryan. Can I stop you real quick? Because I just wanted, for context, Clark Foam opened in 1960, and until 2005, it was the only manufacturer of polyurethane foam that every board maker made use. I mean, I think Hap Jacobs may have used a little different one. Like that green foam.
Sure, 95%.
Yeah, about 95%.
And they closed overnight. They literally sent out a letter, and they were closed the next day, and that was it. And so people were scrambling, but basically what happened is board builders started to get paid what they should have been getting paid all along. Prices of boards went up, the tech changed, and epoxy boards, because there wasn't any foam, so people had to start making boards out of styrofoam and epoxy. And so Firewire came out of that, Marco Foam came out of that, and then my whole switch to sustainability actually has roots in that as well, because I started using a bio epoxy. Actually, I think it was 07.
So just as another little recap of the politics that were involved, I know that it basically happened because the EPA went into Clark Foam and said, hey, we don't like the toxicity of the boards that you're making and how you're dealing with your waste byproduct of these boards. And so we want to regulate you. And he basically said, I'm not going to be regulated, basically threw up his middle finger and peaced out. And just like you said, sent a letter to the surf industry, say, hope you enjoy what you've got. You're not getting any more. I'm not going to be regulated by the government, and deuces.
And it's crazy.
And that's where, like you said,
he had multiple lawsuits of employees that were getting sick, getting cancer by being exposed to toxic chemicals to produce the blanks. So yeah, it was pretty heavy, but ultimately it was a good thing. So it happened, right? And going it's a really long conversation. I have to rein it in and keep it short, but that was kind of the precursor to the EcoBoard movement, was the closure of something toxic, and greener options came out of it.
Sounds like.
So when you decided you were going to go ahead, Shelley.
I just wanted to say that sounds like an example of government regulation leading ultimately to some good innovation.
Exactly. Almost.
Good.
Crazy.
I mean, they weren't going to monitor
the EPA,
because it was probably a highly profitable operation. If they had a monopoly basically on the system, that why monitor ourselves if it's working right for us? So that somebody had to step in and kind of lead them to make Well, they could have made better decisions, and in this case, you made better decisions. So, solid.
Yeah.
So that was one example of when the EPA actually got it right, and then they continue to get it like so. A lot of good stuff has come from that. So, right, when you did the shape and the design of the traditional boards as we know today change with the different types of foam, and if so, how?
Honestly, not really. What you get is a better flex with epoxy, and you get a livelier filling board, and you get greater longevity. So ultimately, you get a better product by using a more sustainable material, which is what I discovered like on my own because I switched to using the bioepoxy, and then my boards didn't break anymore. So I was like, oh, green light, I'm on something, right? So yeah, they look the same, they feel the same, but they live longer, and there's no fumes involved during the building process, and so it's better for the workers, which was one of the problems with Clark Farm. And yeah, the birds have a natural biodegradation cycle. There's all sorts of stuff that I can get really technical about, but like we've had to do the cradle to grave analysis and all kinds of stuff.
So can you explain for us what is bioepoxy?
Okay, so the EcoBoard movement basically started with the invention of bioepoxy. It literally did not exist until '07. It was invented by the Benatal brothers, and you guys know my boy Ray and his brother. They started this whole thing. I actually think you guys were ordering boards maybe even before Tom and I launched the first factory because I was in Carson in the Entropy Residence bioepoxy warehouse building boards. And out through that, had to launch the first Eco Glass Shop, which was in Hawthorne, all the way to now, which is the newest iteration, Orange. And it's pretty much, yeah, bioepoxy. It wasn't a thing yet. And so all epoxies were petroleum based. The invention of bioepoxy was exactly that. Instead of a petroleum base, it was a bio based. So it's an eco-friendly material. And it happens to be the best and strongest epoxy resin still to this day out there. I mean, even Firewire.
Greg, what's your experience riding the the new tile bioepoxy board as opposed to the traditional Clark? Because I know like you and I we've been in this like long enough to have ridden both quite extensively.
Yeah, I have ridden both, and there's maybe a different sound, a different feel slightly, but I mean the boards are just as functional. There's no difference. And I was going to ask Ryan, how long did it take before it started to people started to buy in? Because you and I have talked about it, and I know the boards. I mean, I'm not a professional surfer. I am a surfer and been surfing for a while, and I love the boards and I love what you're doing. But how long did it take before people really started to take notice and buy in on this?
Pretty much, we were struggling the first, I want to say 5 years. And as soon as we started working with other labels, we started working with Lost, then Channel Islands, and then everybody. And that was the validation that the whole EcoBoard movement needed. And then Firewire came along. And when the Slater group bought Firewire, bought a controlling interest in Firewire, sure they were to use the bioepoxy on all their boards also. So you took one of the biggest brands that just switched, and so that was pretty much the turning point, I think.
But so Firewire wasn't epoxy though, like a bioepoxy. Isn't it more like a product that comes from China?
They're made overseas, but they're made entirely with the same bioepoxy that I use.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Really?
Yep.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, when did Slater leave CI? Basically, when he left CI. So you started seeing those Slater Designs boards. That's about when. So I probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
So wow. Right, let me ask you this, because I remember the old Firewire used to have a little air plug in them, to let the boards didn't blow up. Were those still bioepoxy boards?
No, not back then.
Okay.
And it's something as simple as the original early on bioepoxy was super yellow. It used to be called Super Sap. And we all know what that's a negative connotation because boards yellow over time. So a yellow board looks like it's decayed, right? It looks like it's dying versus a brand new one's bright white. So they had to get the chemistry right to get the yellowness out without reducing the bio content so it wouldn't be USDA certified, which is why Ray's got multiple doctorates. He's a genius. He literally had to invent the chemistry to do this. So that's probably why it took a while. You know, that's pretty tough stuff. I have my own algorithm math that I use on board design and stuff, but I don't know. The chemistry is like just beyond me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. So how did you get to, or how did we get from the early the early manufacturing of the bio boards? Because I don't recall them being zero waste when they started. How did we get from where we were at to where we are now, where we're really looking at zero waste in the manufacturing process?
So to clarify, which most people, when you say that, they just start, red flags come up because surfboards, even eco boards, the manufacturing process to make those eco boards, you create a ton of waste. You literally create metric tons of waste each year to make each board. So a study was done a couple of years ago by Sustainable Surf, and they did an audit at Channel Islands factory up in Santa Barbara. And what they found was that the average shortboard made in poly, the waste generated to make one board is double the weight of the finished board. So your average poly shortboard weighs about 6 pounds. There's 12 pounds of waste generated, and then none of that's recyclable. So then the epoxy board or an eco board, it was about the same weight. So about 5 pounds, goes a little bit lighter, was generated. Every single board. And they make over 25,000 boards a year. So do the math on that. So when I relaunched and opened the factory in Torrance, one of the things I wanted to do, I was kind of, I honestly thought zero waste was a pipe dream, but it was a long-term goal. And I just basically looked at recycling centers and some of the machinery that they use and figured out, all right, well, if we categorize our waste streams first and figure out for each room, right, we take each room by case basis. There's 3 rooms, shaping, sanding, and then glassing room, which is the hot mess. And has the most waste streams. The shaping was pretty easy because most are recycling most of our foam, except the shaping dust, and that's when the mealworms came in, which I can't really talk about that anymore because we don't use them anymore, but we still have a solution for that. So once we figured out roughly about a third of our waste, then I started figuring out, okay, we're going to categorize everything and sort it, and I started sorting all of our trash. So we were zero waste before I did the whole campaign, the Kickstarter, and got the machinery because I was just hoarding it. I was sorting it and hoarding it upstairs. And then we got the shredder, and it's the same shredder that a recycling center uses, the high density plastic shredder, because what are surfboards made out of? The resin is actually plastic. So if that said plastic coats everything, then I can run it through the shredder. So now we've densified our waste stream, and we have this shred. And the shred that comes from categorizing and shredding all of our waste is stuff that we can then upcycle and make into new products. Like, and I'll show you some actually, because this is the raw shred right there. That stuff, that's shredded up surfboard waste. And I'll get it real close so you can maybe see there's resin chips, stir sticks, resinated fiberglass, latex gloves, everything that goes into making a surfboard is in there. And then we put them into little product molds, and that is the coaster. So you can see it, and it kind of looks like a trash weight, right? So that's why this is kind of one of our poignant eco products, because you can see the waste in it. So that's one of the little coasters. We've got little tiles, construction grade tiles. These will literally bounce, not shatter like a traditional one. And then this is not done yet, but that's what a shed hand plane looks like, or as I call them, trash plane. So there's a little strap right here. But you can see the shred particles. You can see all the little, those are, anything yellow in there, that's a squeegee flake that's been shredded up. And so that is how we were able to get to a zero waste manufacturing factory. And I've had to be very, very, very fact-based with all of it because it didn't exist before I invented it. And a lot of people were punching holes in my store. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about human waste. I'm talking about the waste and only the waste to make said boards. It doesn't leave the building, and it all gets upcycled into new products. That's a cool one. And that's actually off the resin tint from one of my boards.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it was, and it's pretty gnarly because as you get busier, you create a bigger waste stream, and you have to figure out, okay, well, how do I encapsulate all that trash that we're creating and create new ideas and new products? And this is what, that's what melted down foam looks like. And so see this portion right here where it just looks kind of like resin, right? That's just melted down EPS. Then look over here, that's where I've actually applied steam and it's rebeating. So you can see it's starting to get white again. That's gonna be new foam. But right now it just looks like resin. It's crazy.
Right, and it seems like you're experimenting a lot as you come up with ideas or identify new problems and experiment with ways of overcoming them to reduce your waste stream even more. It's really fantastic to see. And you know that plastic is such a huge problem in the ocean, in our environment right now. So to see a way that you are avoiding all that landfill or escaped plastic ends up in the ocean, it's really great to see.
Well, the next thing I want to do is take some, there's literally more like plastic in the ocean, or there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish by like 2050, I think is one of the stats. But like, there is so much plastic and it doesn't go away. I have to start using it. So one of the things we're trying to figure out, working with Ray and working with some brilliant minds, is like breaking it down so that we can use it. The least I could do is shred it, and it's as simple as melting it in an oven, pressing it in something hard, and then I run it through the shredder, and then we can upcycle it. But I want to figure out a way we can like make fiberglass out of plastic, right, and make boards with it, make found plastic.
And that would be kind of the ultimate, because right now shredding and reusing it as another item works for some things, doesn't work for everything, and certainly doesn't work for the overwhelming amount of disposable plastic that's out there right now. But for what you're doing in this kind of contained environment, you are actually preventing, I don't know how many tons of landfill of plastic waste. So it's a great start right there. But I love that you're now inspired to take to the next step and say, what else can we do?
Yeah, it's fun. And there's a company that has a machine. We did the World Oceans Day event with them last year, and they're out in New Zealand. They have a machine, I think they're called Bifusion. They have a machine that basically takes all kinds of plastic and steam, and it doesn't melt it all the way. It gets to like a molten state, and they make these construction-grade plastic bricks. They look like Legos that they can then build structures with. And they built a lifeguard tower with it last June. And so we're looking to work with them to help. Well, I already use all my plastic, right? But we're working with them to maybe give them some of my shrimp, give them shaping desks to help make the blocks stronger. So
Ryan,
very cool.
Do you foresee in the future somebody being able to produce or have a place where people can bring their old surfboards to be shredded and done away with, rather than, I mean, I know you're doing it in the manufacturing process, but we've all had old surfboards that we don't use anymore. What do we do with those now?
So that's part of the next phase that has to do with what we're launching in November, which is the shred skateboards. And we're going to get a new piece of equipment to replace the old. I mean, I did this all on my own. I wouldn't even call it a budget, dude. I had no idea what I was getting into. I barely looked into shredders, and I got this thing that weighed like a ton, barely fit in my truck, but it did the job. So now we're going to get this gnarly custom shredder. We could literally load from the top floor entire boards. So it'll shred entire boards, and we can take people's boards and shred them and dispose of them eco-friendly, in an eco-friendly way. Completely recycle it.
Perfect.
So, Rod, let me ask you a quick question. Like, beside the eco board and what you're doing right now, like, what are the other manufacturing processes look like? I know there's a lot of boards that come from factories in China that may be circumventing the EPA, as we would, like, I know that board manufacturing went to China when Clark closed. What's the percentage of eco boards being put out there in the surf world now, as opposed to, toxic boards that will require a shredder, like you just spoke about, to deal with that waste later?
Well, I would say just numbers. Eco boards are still not the majority, right? There's still a minority percentage of the total boards made on the planet. The most eco boards are made in the U.S., aside from, Firewire being the largest eco board brand because of their switch to the bioepoxy. And they've actually done we kind of compete to do and push each other to raise the bar. So they started making these tiles out of their melted EPS foam that are paved stones that are at the surf ranch. So I saw that and I was like, all right, I see that. I'll raise you zero waste. But they're also, they've got $1 million problems, right? They've got a whole logistics issue with shipping these boards all over the planet in an eco-friendly way. So they've actually removed plastic from all their shipping, and they use recycled cardboard, I think, to package their boards. But I'd say there's thousands. I got to keep the numbers pretty loose because I don't have the exact stats. I'd have to confer with Sustainable Surf, but it's thousands of eco boards a year versus hundreds. But yeah, because we're still the only zero waste manufacturing factory. Every glass shop is still producing tons of physical waste that goes in the landfill weekly, which is a problem.
Right.
Because it's plastic waste, it's toxic waste. When you go to the resin, when you go to the foam dust, it's all toxic. So we're looking to. I didn't want to, but we're gonna have to patent the whole process.
So is it true to say that, like,
and share?
Is it true to say that, because I know I've been in your shop before, and I've seen like lost boards, I've seen CI boards like that you've done eco-friendly, but I know that you're not building their entire fleet of boards. So the mass majority of those boards, I would imagine, are some sort of not as eco-friendly or not eco-friendly at all boards.
Right.
Is that true?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
One of the biggest things too is the economical reasons. Epoxy boards are generally more expensive than poly boards. And so guys were getting that still, this is $100 to $200 more. They'd get that sticker shock and go with the traditional poly board. But in the reality, their eco board made with epoxy is going to last longer. So they save money by getting a board that lasts longer instead of having to replace it, right? So that's more and more people are ordering eco.
That's kind of classic in our system as well. The cheaper board is cheaper for a few reasons, and one of those reasons is that nobody's paying the true cost to the environment of using these very toxic materials and processes, not only to the environment, but to the health of the workers, all the things we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. So it's really, I think we have to talk about that when we talk about the cost differential. $200 is a lot for anybody, but combined, when you look at the lifetime of the board from the manufacturing through the eventual disposal or recycling of it, it's so much safer. And then just durability of it is amazing. And I think if people really understood the difference in the processing and the manufacturing and the impact on the planet and the ocean that we all love, the reason we're out there surfing, and could really really believe that they're going to last so much longer, then I think that would make a huge difference. And do you think this is the main kind of barrier to people making the switch? Like when someone's needs a new board and they're going to go out there and find their new board, do you think it's cost or the fact that people are used to the traditional boards? What's holding us back at this point?
That, I think cost is one of the biggest inhibitors. but also just the education on the tech alone. I know you guys watch surf contests, and I love the announcers, but half the time they don't know what the hell they're talking about when they're talking about said pro, what he's riding underneath his feet. They say EcoBoard. They don't say EcoBoard. Oh, it's zero weight. They don't even know what they're talking about. And that translates to the consumer going into a surfboard shop, requesting exactly what he said, and then it's not right, and then they don't get it. Like, there's so many different things, but basically the customers become misinformed because of all this misinformation. And so one of my main jobs is I'm an educator. I'm just trying to explain exactly how these things work, explain the science behind it, and explain everything so that people are more informed and can make a better educated decision when they purchase their next board. And honestly, it's something simple as changing the resin. That makes an EcoBoard. That's it.
Right.
Well, I will say this. I have a Rye Harris board, SUP. It's a 9.0. The thing rips. And knock on wood, I have not paid a single ding repair on a board that I've ridden for 5 years. Like, it is so strong. It's bulletproof. I even knocked a fin, a future fin, out of the board, and no fin box damage. I just lost the fin.
Yeah, that's not normal.
So
mind you.
It's not. I'm not saying
That's crazy.
I feel blessed. Like,
But also, that's I make our subs just absolutely bulletproof with all the different tech we use.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I do want to circle back and ask you one question, Ryan. And you mentioned that you saw these tiles at the surf ranch. Did you surf it?
Yes, recently. Here on the side, I'll put a couple screenshots. Yeah, it was, one of my mentors and my first investor at the new, called the new, we've been here for 3 years now. He is now the CEO of the WSL. And so he's been, telling me for a while, hey, I've got my day. You're on my list. So it's coming up. And he told me that in January.
Wow.
Then in February and March, the COVID stuff happened, and we were all like, all right, well, that's going up in smoke. But no, we got our day. And that's, let me zoom in on this photo. I kind of just look like a black blob, but that's in the bed. The other thing that was really cool is we can choose we were surfing the same waves they surf in the contest, the CT2 or the CT3, and you get to pick them. So you basically surf an hour heat, you're guaranteed, depending on the size of your group, 3 to 4 priority waves, and you can pick them. So I was just going CT3 all day long, because it's got the end barrel. If you choose the other one with the multiple barrels, you could eat it halfway through, not making the barrel blow your wave. So
right.
At least with the end barrel, I'd like get 8 to 9 to 10 turns in and be gassed by the time the barrel came up. I'm naturally slowing down anyway and just set it up. Pretty idiot proof, dude. They had a guy on the ski like calling out the sections and everything, and so it was pretty rad. Now I got put myself up there like a complete ass.
You didn't take one, or you did?
I did. We had a sup heat, and I got a barrel on that too. So it was nuts. I'll find it later. I'll text you guys.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Ryan, for spending the time with us and informing us and educating us on what's happening in the sustainable surf model. We applaud you for your efforts because it's huge, man. What you're doing is monumental, and I speak for myself as a board member of Heal the Bay, and I know Dr. Luce is the same. Like, dude, we got to do something.
Absolutely.
So,
the Heal the Bay logo, right? I want that on a sustainable board. We need to make it happen. My beautiful fish logo.
Sweet. Let's do it.
Yeah, be great.
Cool.
All right, Rachal and the Black Surfers Collective, we want to thank you all for joining us today. Ryan and Dr. Luce, thank you so much. Greg, any final thoughts you'd like to add?
You know what?
Is there anything else
Just
you'd like to add?
you know what? Much success, Ryan. You know, you and I have known each other for years. I've watched you grow and watched you get into this, you know, wholeheartedly. And I just wish you the most success for your own success and for ours. You know, this is something that we all love, and we're all a part of this. And we're just watching you grow, man. And I hope it just it takes off and keeps going. And love it. All right. So congrats.
Yeah, great, Ryan. You know, we support you, dude, in all of your efforts, and I'm out there championing for you every chance I get. So I appreciate you.
Thank you guys.
I'll be in soon to order another board.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Hey,
Peace.
bye.